Did I leave the game running all night? I think I did. Alright. So we are at the end of chapter 4. Wonderful, wonderful news. We're back for the second half to finish up this game. We last left, we met a new guy who apparently likes to party with dead people. But yeah, so we're back. Alright. And then I'm gonna finish up this game, and I don't know if I'm gonna jump into another game or what. I do need to get some other games done, so yeah. Let me go ahead back into this. Chapter 5. Fire.
Уважаемые пассажиры, наш электропоезд прибывает на конечную станцию Москва-Узкая. При выходе из вагонов не забывайте свои вещи. О вещах, оставленных другими пассажирами, сообщайте машинисту электропоезда. Желаем вам всего доброго.
Dear passengers, our train arrives at the final station, Moscow. Don't know. When leaving the carriages, do not forget your stuff. Please inform the train crew about the things left by other passengers. We wish you all the best. Our train hadn't reached the final station, and we hadn't heard this phrase, as well as the wish of all the best. Numerous people who had gone to work, to their friends and family, and for some other reasons, were stuck on the train here, at the 60th kilometer of Moscow, of the Moscow Railway south direction. We listened attentively to Alexei's story, asking a few clarification questions. Everyone had thought that everyone had thought that man had been our savior. Who knew what had happened on that ill-fated day? But he was a victim, just like we, and didn't know anything about the situation. But if he'd survived, then somewhere there were other survivors. Guys, let's finish for today. It's late night already. We should try to get enough sleep. Alexei, you could choose a seat where you go to sleep. We had already got acquainted with our guests and told them our story. People were going slowly to their places. Alexei found a place where he was going to sleep, nearby my seat. Nikolai, what will we do with the old man in my car? I think we should bury him. The old man is still in his car. Still in his car. You could call me Nikolai. What we're gonna do? What are we gonna dig with? Besides, we've got little air. Our aim is to save ourselves. We can't afford taking care of the dead. I would be dead, but not for him. He stopped me when I tried to commit suicide. I hope you don't have such thoughts anymore. Everything's gonna be alright. We'll cope with it. He smiled with effort. It was noticeable that he didn't believe his own words. Alexei shifted his gaze from the train driver and got buried in thoughts. He looked miserable. He couldn't come to terms with what happened. He took his head in his hands and tears ran down his face. I shouldn't give up. I tried to believe that my friends and family were alive. Offer to bury the old man, try to calm him down. Yeah, he needs to calm the freak down, because we are not... No, we're not going outside to bury some dead man, no matter how much he had saved your life. Sorry, buddy, we can't. The main thing is that you're alive. It's all over, you're safe here. So let's just save that. But for how long? Nobody knows what's going on and what to expect here. Together we'll come up with something. In the morning we'll discuss what to do. If it's not over by itself. Okay, thank you. I'm alright. I'll have a rest. It was cold, as if it was winter outside, and not an ordinary May night. I sighed and laid double with my legs up. What? It got silent in the carriage. I couldn't sleep, so I started thinking. Hold on a second. Okay. Well, I was smoking inside the building's windows and doors of which were closed. Alexei and we had seen it in different places. In the world? It couldn't have seeped in there. I'm so confused by the reading. Why hadn't it seeped into the car and our train then? That was not clear. It's interesting what's happening in the cities, where thousands or even millions of people lived. It's a pity. I couldn't find it out. If I were alone in this situation, I would have a nervous breakdown. But we had a lot of people in the same extreme conditions. And it made me feel better. I understood that I wasn't alone. There were people of different ages with diverse interests. We seemed to be not connected with each other. Yesterday, we'd all gone by one train and later got into this situation, and it united us. We all had the same problem and didn't know how to solve it. I knew little about the people around me, but I wanted to trust them. Together we felt better. Having lain absorbed in thoughts for a few hours, I fell asleep. I found myself in my flat. It was night. What? The flat was empty. There was nobody except me. The TV set was on, but its screen didn't lighten up the room, so I decided to turn on the light. I flicked a switch. Nothing happened. It was still dark. Ah! I'm so sorry. Oh, I didn't expect that. I tried once again. Please, no. Nothing. A dim light illuminated the room. Each object threw a shadow. Someone else seemed to be there. I lacked light. Oh God. So I went to the corridor to turn it on there, but I didn't succeed. I didn't know it was so scary. I thought this was just an adventure game. I flicked a switch, but it was still dark. A dim light turned... Ah! Save it! Save it! Save it! I flicked the switch, but it was still dark. A dim light turned on for a moment, and then it became dark again. There it goes again. Here's no hope. I woke up. I had seen similar dreams before. Perhaps I only slept for an hour or so. It was still dark outside. I tried to fall asleep again, but I didn't succeed. Depressing thoughts, fear of death, and obscurity of the future left their mark on me. The dark was beating rapidly and loudly, yet I didn't move. I wish I had something sedative? I wish I had a sedative, but there was nothing of the kind here. I got tired of my attempts to fall asleep. I stood up and went towards Nikolai, who was sitting near our prisoner. The others seemed to be asleep, or they just lie with their eyes closed. I sat next to Nikolai. He looked at me heavily. Can't sleep? Yeah. I envy those who can sleep in such an atmosphere. I can't get a wink of sleep. I've had a short nap. That's good. We need energy. Stay focused. Nikolai said it, and pointing at the madman added, maybe we could kick him out of the train. He wanted to prove to us that the smoke isn't dangerous, so let him do it. Nikolai surprised me. I didn't think that such a man would in fact offer to kill the undesirable person. Maybe I didn't know him well enough. Refuse. Yeah, because something's going to happen and somebody's going to die, so I don't think it's a good idea. Well, okay. It's not a bad idea. We don't need him. He only brings us troubles. A pause followed. I had nothing to answer. Nikolai broke the silence. Do you want me to tell you anything? For example? Well, about our new home. He meant the electric train. What can you tell about it? It's an ordinary train. They're all different. So, what's the difference? They look almost the same. Look, this is Demikohovo commuter train. What? It was produced in Russia. Demikohovo? Yes, it was produced in Demikohovo. I don't know. is somewhere on the east of the Moscow region. In the old days, when they had only started producing them, it was pleasant to drive the new railway vehicle. My gosh. For those who understood, of course. They even had longer carriages. Tambours were more oh man, I've never seen that word before. Commodious. Doors are wider. It accelerates boarding and unloading passengers. I remember when the first train appeared in our depot. It was 1993. They've been produced since that time. Hadn't they been produced in Russia until 1983? Where had they been made then? In Riga. Have you seen the inscription ER on carriages? ER2, for example? I shook my head. I never paid attention to such unimportant things. ER means Riga Electric Train. It's simple. So they are outdated already. They're seldom used now. Dimikovo something trains replace them. He continued talking, but I wasn't eager to listen to him. Dang. After all, we had different interests. In a few minutes, we heard some noise from the end of the carriage. Somebody else got tired of lying with their eyes closed and trying to sleep. I looked, and it was Marina. She walked through the carriage and sat down on the opposite bench. Can't sleep either? Yeah, I'd like to look at those who sleep well in this atmosphere. Anyway, Nikolai smiled and pointed at Alexander. He seemed to enjoy a balmy sleep. Fearless. He must be a military officer. I guess so. How's your hand? Still hurts? Just a little. He didn't cut me deep. But there was so much blood. Fine. I'll leave you two alone for now. I'm gonna check if everything's fine in the other carriages. You look anxious. What's happened? Nothing. I was listening to Alexei's story and imagined that the same can happen to my family. They may already be dead. Let's just make sure that we're saved. We should hope for the best. You don't know it for sure. Yes, but I'm worrying. Besides, I'm afraid to be left alone and lose my friends and my family. It's the most awful thing that can happen. At least you're not alone here. Look, we have trustworthy people here. We can rely on them. Yes, you, for example. I think you're trustworthy. Thank you. Ooh! Look at these choices. Offer to drink some wine. Offer some wow chicka wow wow. Or say goodbye. We gotta keep it PG. So, let's offer some wine. When we were at the shop, I took a bottle of wine. It's quite expensive. Let's taste it. Let's save it. That sounds good. I'd like to taste it. I took a bottle of wine and 2 plastic cups out of the bag. Well, we have no bottle screw, but it's not a problem. I took off a sticker and pushed a cork inside the bottle. Done. I see you're quite experienced. I poured some wine. A pleasant scent filled the carriage. I hope the others don't get offended that we haven't invited them. Others are either asleep or... I think we don't need anybody else. I agree. What are we drinking for? Let's drink for this to end up. What? Let's drink for this to end. And for a good acquaintance. Agree? Of course. We had a drink. It's a fine wine. I assume you're good at many things. We got silent. I offered to drink some more wine. A second cup of wine was even better. You know, all this gives us a chance to look at our life differently. What do you mean? She thought how to express it better. You understand that all the problems that you're worried about aren't so important. When a problem is that you don't have any idea of what's going on and how long you'll stay alive, it just makes me crazy. The things I worried about are nothing. She took the bottle, poured us some more wine, and drank it at once. Do you see that jerk? She showed me her phone screen, the same hipster. This is my boyfriend, or ex-boyfriend. What happened? She stretched out for a bottle, but I outstripped her. What? Poured the wine in both cups. The bottle was empty. We drank some more. He got drunk and slept with some girl. I'm sorry, but still you have this photo on your phone. Why? And how did you know about that? He told me everything. He's a very honest and straightforward person, and he's got some whims, but that was the first of this kind, and he told me about it. I don't understand what for. Maybe he wanted to lighten his conscience and thought I would forgive him. And you know, I'm ready to forgive him. Forgive that? Maybe. And the most interesting is that I'm really ready to do it. Maybe because I love him, or maybe because he told me everything himself, or because of both reasons. Why is everything so complicated? You know, in any case, it doesn't matter now. Offer to go to the train driver's cab? What? He is really trying to get some. I don't think it's gonna happen if we go there. What should we do? I think, cause I know that this is probably the nude scene. I don't know. We'll skip it. We'll skip it fast if it happens. Have you ever been to the train driver's cab? No, never. But I would like to. Let's go. I think Nikolai won't be against it. I took her by the hand and we went to the train driver's cab. The door wasn't locked, so we came in. Wow, it's so cool here. I've never thought I'd be here. I locked the door from the inside. It's a pity we can't put the train in motion. I've always dreamt of trying to drive such a jumbo. I don't think it's difficult. You're very nice. You too. You know, Oleg, sometimes it's difficult to be on the same wave as someone, but then you meet a person who you feel at ease with. I'm sorry, I'm talking nonsense. We've talked to each other just a little. Wine has got to my head. It's okay, I understand you. She came close to me. I felt her breath and subtle scent of her perfume. She looked into my eyes. I want to forget about everything now. I embraced her. She looked into my eyes. Our lips joined. At first, I felt she was uncertain, but in a moment became more liberated. Slow and tender movements stimulated me. My hands are underneath. Okay. Saving warmth, and now we could. Yep. I forgot about everything that surrounded us. As if there was no terrifying pink smoke and people with their arms holding their throats and faces and twisted with pain. Whoa! Skip! I got back to my seat and tried to sleep. I felt something. It smelled like something was burning. Guys, can you smell it? Yeah, it smells like a burning odor. I smell it too. Can you check if everything is okay in the other carriages? Okay, let's go. We went quickly to the other carriage. The burning odor increased. What in the world? That's a random freaking song to be playing. It's like heavy metal playing, but everything is at peace. Most of the people were slumbering. Others talked to each other quietly. We hurried up the next carriage. The situation was the same, but the odor became more evident. Well, let's go to the fourth one. There shouldn't be anybody, but we must check it. Okay, let me go ahead. Whoa, we went to the tambour and saw the following picture. There was a fire in the middle of the carriage. It was so big that some of the seats got inflamed. It did it again. Two half-naked non-Russian men were running around it and trying to douse the flame with their shirts. But they didn't succeed, and one of their shirts caught on fire. Crap, what have you done? Everything's on fire. We had to fight the fire immediately. The carriage got filled with smolder, and we could hardly breathe. Try to find we need water. Where can we take it? We'll not be able to cope with it without water. Bring all the water that we have, and soda water too. What a good idea, fighting fire with soda water. Wait, we should probably save it. We had nothing else which resembled water. I ran up to the girl to the carriage. We took bottles of soda out of the bag, food and drinks, and ran back. People who saw us felt a burning odor. What? And felt a burning odor. Got anxious. They got up from their seats and half asleep trying to find out what's going on. A few moments we were pouring bottles of soda over a raging fire. The flame lowered gradually, seats were smoldering, but didn't burn up. Meanwhile, one of the men who had started the fire was lying at some distance. Most of his clothes were burnt, and I saw his burnt skin. He's dead! I looked at the other Caucasian man, who stood beside us. He was shocked. He looked funny, but we didn't feel like having fun. What the heck? Marina stopped shouting and coughed. Good job. Let's get out of here to the first carriage. It's hard to breathe here. At least I didn't know what to do with them. What the heck? So I decided to take them to Nikolai and let him judge. Some people from the other carriages came to find out what had happened. Soon the news became known to everybody, and people didn't want to sleep anymore. They looked at us with amazement. While we were going along the carriages with the Caucasian man, in a short time we came to the first carriage, and Nikolai got surprised when he saw us. What the? I looked at the guilty Caucasian man. He were silent? Oh, we pirates now? He couldn't say anything to justify themselves. They set a fire in the fourth carriage. They do it. One of them is dead. Nikolai looked at us, then at the man. What have you done here? Now you have managed to set a fire? The man took a pause. Then he answered with an accent. It was cold. We decided to start a fire to get warm. We bought magazines from this saleswoman. Took out from our bags everything that could burn and set fire. Nikolai chuckled. There was at least one woman in the train who sold fresh press. I noticed that practically all the people in the carriage were looking at us. People familiar to me. Alexander, Eugenie, and Andre stood nearby. You're not welcome here. Let me deal with them. Let's go to the tambour, jerk. We wanted to warm up. You annoy me so much. Come here and do some nasty things. Huh? What is happening right now? I see you every day. You're disgusting creatures. Stop insulting him. I agree. Let Eugenie... No, stop insulting him. Shut up, everybody. Nobody cares about his nationality. It could be any person. I agree with Oleg. Let's not act like racists. After all, nobody got hurt. Everyone could make a mistake. Have you put out the fire? Yes. We had to use water and soda from the middle of the carriage. So in the morning, we'll have to go shop for the water again. At that moment, we heard a rustle from the carriage corner nearby. Nikolai, our madman, was regaining consciousness. That really was too much. Look, he's woken up. What? What's going on? Where? The madman tried to recollect what had happened, touching his bleeding head. If you do one more stupid thing, I promise, I'll kill you. The man with wavy hair and bulging eyes still didn't quite understand the situation and remained quiet. Now, Nikolai stared at the fire victim. So, what are we going to do with you? They didn't answer. Maybe we should let them go. I think they won't start a fire again. We won't. Marina, go to the driver's cab and check if there are any clothing left. Maybe you'll find something for him to cover at night. People started returning to their seats. What are we going to do with Crazy Man? Who knows? We'll watch him, so he won't be able to stab us in the back when we don't expect it. Eugenie, now it's your turn. Eugenie looked at him discontently, but didn't resist. It became quiet in the carriage. No one was screaming and shouting. The night was almost up. The first sun rays lightened the green carriages. It became warmer. I found a bottle of mineral water in a bag and went to the tambour. I cleaned my face from soot and drank the water that remained in the bottle and went back to the carriage. Eugenie came in the tambour with a bottle of vodka. Will you drink with me? Agree. Eugenie opened the bottle. There were no cups, so we'll have to drink straight from the bottle. That's okay. Let's drink to health. Ha! You first. Having said the pledge, he grinned strangely. There must be some story hidden behind his grin. He gave me the bottle. I took a sip. Unfortunately, we hadn't got any snacks. What in the world? I gave the bottle back to Eugenie. He took a much larger sip and scringed. You know, I haven't drunk with anybody for a long time. It's amazing that this situation's taken place and I have to bear everybody here. I don't like it when there are a lot of people. Besides, there are too many homebred morons. Why do you dislike people? That's not right. Why do you dislike people? He took one more sip of vodka and gave me the bottle. I repeated after him. I told you, all people are crappy. How can a man who hates people live in society? One more sip of vodka. You know very well. He took one more long sip. If everyone had died because of this freaking smoke, I would be glad. Let everything in, not only for me, but for everyone. You don't have any relatives or children, do you? No. All this makes a hard life even harder. Thanks, I don't need it. Now, it's too late to think of it. Why it's late? Because little time's left for me, even without the smoke. Doctor said I have this thing. Forgot how it's called in medical language. It doesn't matter. A tumor in my lungs. I thought he was about to say he had like some kind of like communicable disease. I was about to say thanks. Can anything be done about it? Doesn't even this prevent you from smoking? From smoking? Are you kidding? I don't give a crap. Nothing can be changed. I can only enjoy my last days. The process can only be slowed down. But I don't want to do it. Let it be so. I'm sorry. Everybody says they're sorry, but I'm not. Are you dramatizing the situation deliberately? No, I decided everything. Perhaps that's what led him to where he was and made him this kind of man. This small detail helped me to formulate more precise opinion about him. That's what the phrase, to know a person you should drink with him, means. What? All this crap which is taking place now will show you that the people are crappy. Soon you'll see it. Thank you for your company. He talked so distinct that he didn't seem to be drunk. Meanwhile, the bottle got empty. He drank more than me, but still I was drunk. My head... Oh, sorry guys. My head went round and my thoughts mixed up. Eugenie glanced at me, his look full of gratitude, and went to the carriage. Everything's not so bad if he decided to drink with me, not alone, taking into account that he hated people. I stood in the vestibule for some time. I looked in the muddy window, looking at the barely visible outlines of my own reflection. Slowly I returned to the train car. The Caucasian came to me. He was one of those who staged the fire in the car. Thanks. Thanks for your help. You're welcome. I couldn't afford to let Eugenie beat you. And believe me, he could. I've got nothing to show my gratitude. Except this. Take it. He showed me a book in his hand. Take a book. I took the book. It was some kind of Russian science fiction. On the cover there was an image of a young guy with a lantern in his hand. It was called Agony. I put the book down. Maybe I'll read it later. I think it's time to build plans for the day. I agree. Ow. The situation is bad. There are only 6 regeneration cartridges left. They're not enough to have long walks in the toxic air. So let's think what to do. To begin with, I want to go to the shop once again and refill our reserve of food. After the fire, we have little water. I want to go. Who's going with me? I want to go. It's interesting what's outside and how it feels like. I don't think that's a good idea. We'll have to go fast with heavy bags and you're... What? What? Added to the women's merch. Just check that off. Just add that to the list. Yes, I'm a woman. Is that what you wanted to say? I'll cope with it, I promise. Oleg, will you support me? Let Marina go hike. Yeah, let her freaking put her... I already got laid, so... Let her go. She wants to freaking go, let her go. She can go if she wants it so badly. Okay, but I don't think it's a good idea. She's dead, rip. Thank you, Oleg. Besides, we have some more gas masks. We should go towards Moscow. We should find some more regeneration cartridges. Oh yeah, we need those. Let's do that. Yes, we need them to go outside. It took Alexander some time to think it over, and then his eyes shone. An idea came to his mind. Does anyone have a map? Everybody shook their heads. Oh my god. We should ask people from other carriages. I remembered. I have maps in my phone. I informed Alexander. Alexander, I have maps in my cell phone. Let's have a look. The man took the phone from my hands and looked at the program with maps. The Google Maps, though. Somebody gave me a pen. Somebody give me a pen and a sheet of paper. Nikolai went to the driver's cab and brought the stuff for Alexander. Here, a military installation is based. It's 4 kilometers from here. I think there'll be enough regeneration cartridges to get there. Like the previous time, 3 of us will go. What does it mean? Enough to get there. How will we get back? We'll have a bag full of them on the way back. Alexander smiled. For the first time, I saw emotions in his immovable face. Oh, there goes the smile. I offer you to go there and refill their battle reserve. Otherwise, we'll stay here and gas masks won't save us. Do you know how to get there? It must be closed from trespassing. I was there. I know every corner there. Well, who's going with me? The idea was quite rational and nobody argued. Although I had been about to die from the lack of air the previous time I walked outside. I wanted to go again. I couldn't sit here and wait. Besides, I had experience. I was eager to act. I'll go. I'll go too. No, you'll stay here and watch for Crazy Man. Nikolai pointed at our prisoner. Alexei, who kept silence, offered. Then I'll go with you. Okay, I've got no objection. So you've got time to have breakfast and then we're setting off. The end of chapter 5. My goodness, man. I didn't know this game was going to start getting scary. Oh gosh, please don't do that again. Chapter 6, Under the Rain.
Уважаемые пассажиры, двери нашего поезда автоматические. При избежании несчастных случаев не прислоняйтесь к дверям, не высовывайтесь из окон, не задерживайтесь при посадке и высадке.
Dear passengers, the doors of the electric train are automatic. Do not lean on the doors in order to avoid accidents. Be careful. Do not delay when boarding and disembarking. We didn't delay when exiting the carriage doors. There was a danger of letting too much toxic air inside. Alexander quickly closed the doors upon us. There were 3 of us, the 3 volunteers who agreed to go in the military installation and get such irreplaceable cartridges for there. Our day began with a miserable breakfast. We had to save food and didn't want to eat much. The atmosphere was tough. People couldn't relax for a moment. They had frayed nerves. Someone was trying to calm down those who worried the most. Some people, on the contrary, separated from the others and stayed face to face with their thoughts. We called the people together and they told about the purpose of our trip. No one was against the idea, and no one wanted to go instead of us. In 30 minutes, we were standing near a train, ready to set off. Alexander ransacked in his pocket, what the heck, and took out a piece of paper, where the route to our destination was drawn. This man was always absorbed in his thoughts, and even sometimes spoke to others. The speeches he produced were short, informative, and reserved as a rule. Only seldom he would shout at somebody, as he shouted at Eugenie the previous time. 3. We have 3 reserve cartridges. It'll be enough to get to the military installation. Okay, let's go. After this phrase, we set off, this time in the opposite to the shop, in Alexei's car direction. We decided not to take the car, though a little petrol was left in there. We considered we would use it later. There was a low ascent to the south, where the railway line was going. What's there? Moscow Big Ring Railway, its entry and exit. To be more precise, trains go under it. Have you seen the bridge there? Yep. It was strange that Alexander didn't scold me for talking during our trip. Perhaps because in contrast with the previous trip, we had air in a reserve. Today was a good day, warm and sunny. One couldn't imagine that the night had been so cold. Like on the first day, the pink smoke wasn't very thick. We could see the sky and the objects on the horizon, but everything was painted in this familiar to us color. We had to go through the thicket of tall grass. Sometimes sticks and crumby fallen trees got in our way. We had to avoid them. I even stumbled a couple of times. The way there will take us about 50 minutes or even less. After this phrase, we didn't say anything. I decided to break the silence. Look, I noticed one consistency. Alexei, you told us that nobody had been heard at the place where your summer cottage was situated. There was nobody in the shop, as the smoke was there. In the shop, which we visited, the situation was the same, but there was no smoke in your and the old man's cars, as well as our train. What connects them? It's transport. It means that for some reason the smoke didn't seep into the objects, which were in motion. That sounds strange, but it seems to be logical. Alexander didn't say anything, being absorbed in his thoughts. We came to the open field and went toward the trees that were seen on the horizon. They surrounded a small rural house. Our leader compared with a map, drawn on a piece of paper, and without saying anything, went further. I looked at the sky. Dark, heavy clouds moved towards us from the north. I hadn't seen such clouds for a long time. A thunderstorm was coming. Alexander stopped for a while and went closer to us. Even his gait was calibrated. But for this man, who had gas masks by some miracle, we would sit in dusty carriages, dying from hunger and thirst. I was eager to get an answer for the question which Eugenie had tried to ask during our previous trip. I remembered how our leader had reacted to it, but I wanted to know the answer, and finally asked, Alexander, why did you have these gas masks with you? A pause followed. It lasted a few seconds, but for me it seemed to last forever. This is our new elaboration. In order to make a new model of gas mask, was sent to our research institute from Moscow. So we made whoops. Are these gas masks new? I don't see any different from other gas masks. Are they new? Yes, they are. Haven't you ever worn a gas mask? Do you feel the difference? I shook my head and at the same moment understood Alexander understood that Alexander hadn't seen it as he went in front of us. I guess no. It doesn't differ from others according to his characteristics. Only in small details, more convenient and serviceable, and that there's a less specific smell inside. Specific. I see. Well, they've been tested recently at the military installation. Where we're going now. Yesterday I took these 3 samples to show them to our bosses in Moscow. I didn't notice if this gas mask was better than those, which we'd had at our mimic warfare. It was too long ago to feel the difference. Meanwhile, Alexander continued telling something about the gas mask called IP4M and its difference from those which we were in. But this story wasn't interesting for me. Listen, Oleg, I'm against your decision to allow Marina to go to the shop. I understand that you have warm feelings for her and decided to support her, but she's a girl, and these trips are played with death. It's very dangerous. Besides, carrying heavy bags is men's business. I don't know why she volunteered to go there. I didn't answer anything. My decision might be facile, or it might be not. It was strange to walk on a field without hearing any sounds. Neither a howl of the wind, yet it became harder, nor a chirp of grasshopper, nor a buzz of bees and wasps flying up from the wildflowers. There was only a silence, my heartbeat, and our talks. The silence was broken by a dull rumble. We turned our heads and looked up at the sky. Heavy dark clouds were approaching us rapidly. Oh crap, it's about to rain. Oh, it's gonna be all over. There was once more a thunder blast, much louder than the previous one. Why haven't I noticed it earlier? If only a drop falls on us, we'll be all dead. Don't you remember what happens to water affected by the smoke? Oh my god, we're about to die. Save it. I remembered a pond, which we had passed during our previous trip. Indeed, how could I forget about that? I had seen this thundercloud when it was far from us. This minor mistake could cost our lives. Fortunately, our leader decided what to do and took everything in his hands. Follow me, faster. Having said this, he set off and ran. We followed him. Get ready to quickly press the buttons. Is it EQ or what is it? E and Q. Alright. Failed. I'm dead. Oh god. Okay, ready. E and Q. E and Q. Run! Run! I've been good at running at school. I'd even won some competitions. Now, the skill became dull. Save it. Immediately. Alright. We ran as fast as we could. I understood where Alexander directed us his steps on high speed. In less than a kilometer in front of us was an old house surrounded by shabby trees. However, I couldn't see them well. It was getting dark quickly. The clouds hid the sun and became darker with shades of pink. Get ready to press the buttons. Oh my god, E and Q. Come on! How could I have failed again? EQ, 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 EQ. Alright, we made it. While running, I lifted my head. Heavy clouds, which could release drops of toxic liquid at any time, were above our heads. Save it. The rain was coming. These clouds could only bring pouring rain. It was dangerous to stay on the field because we might be struck by lightning, but we were more concerned about the rainfall. Alexander was far ahead of us. We ran much slower, yet we were younger. The building which could save us was very close. It was surrounded by old apple trees and a low shabby fence which peeled off paint and a gate in the middle of it. An old woman with a milk can could have come out of it, but there was nobody except us. The first drops began falling down. Only a minute was left for us to cover the distance. Drops were falling on the grass. One of them fell on Alex's shoulder. A hole appeared in his thin jacket as if made by acid. He moaned quietly and kept on running. A second drop fell on my hand. It fell and started going down slowly, leaving a bloody track after it. Toxic fluid came inside. Quickly press the buttons. EQ, 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 EQ. Run, run, run. I just run forward. Alexander was almost in front of an open door of the house. Meanwhile, we only reached the gate. One more drop fell on my hand. I felt terrible pain. Pouring rain started. We came to the house quickly. On my way, I paid attention to a woman's body that lay near the house. One more victim of the pink smoke. Finally, we were out of danger and inside the house. Wind started blowing outside. The rain was heavy. Trees bent under the streams of water. The sky was lightened by flashes of lightning. Thunder split our ears. Are you all right? I examined myself. My hand was bleeding. Blood had already fouled my shirt. The wound wasn't big at first sight. Fortunately, I had no more injuries. Alexei's condition was worse. He touched his head. Water ate his ear. His vertex was bleeding. Ew. We got into trouble. The wound doesn't seem to be big, but it hurts. I'm going to be bald. Oleg, will you ever look at if it's serious? Don't worry, it's only a scratch. Your head is bleeding serious. It's dangerous. Should I be like, hey man, what's up? Read it like I'm dying. Let's see. Your head is bleeding seriously. It's dangerous. Don't worry, it's only a scratch. Doing great. As bleeding seriously, I think it would be better if Alexei goes back to the train when the rain is over. He's hurt most of all. It's not so bad. He can go with us. I feel like if we let him continue, he'll probably die. I'm gonna go ahead and tell him to go back. Will you cope without me? Yeah, sure. It's not a big deal, dude. Yes, without you, we'll bring less useful things. But safety is first of all. We won't risk your life. Okay, when the rain's over, I'll go back. What are we gonna do? At that moment, a lightning flashed and the thunder was heard. Alexander was thinking everything over. I examined the shelter. It was an ordinary old house. An old woman's body with his hands spread lay on the floor. I felt pity for her. Death overtook her unexpectedly. There was a cup with some liquid and a box of chocolate on the table. Dang, right in the middle of tea and chocolate. What a way to go. How did their lives end up? We could only guess what people whom had seen it our way were doing at the moment when this awful phenomenon took their lives away. Examine the table, examine the dead body. How long the air will be enough for? What? Examine the table. I came up to the table cautiously, trying not to look at the dead body. The cup was filled with pink liquid. Was it the same liquid that streamed from the sky? It's likely contaminated with the smoke. What had been in the cup before? Maybe there had been tea or coffee. It looks like freaking coffee to me. It's strange that a tasty drink turned into toxic liquid. Why was the water in the bottles that we brought from the shop clear? Maybe because they were closed? But the shop was filled with smoke. But the shop filled with smoke was closed too. Somehow the smoke managed to seep inside. It was inexplicable. Examine the table, examine the dead body. How long will the air be good enough for? So to be honest, the situation is bad. We have 3 cartridges in reserve. They will be long enough for about 50 minutes. While we're waiting here, precious time goes away. We've only got 2 variants. We can go back to the train. There will be enough air for it. But it won't be long enough if we go to the military installation and back. There can be no gas masks, so we're taking risks. We risk not only our lives, but the lives of those who stayed in the train. No gas masks, no food, they all die. Everyone got silent. We looked outside, standing at the door. The sky was clear on the horizon. The rain will last about 10 minutes. We're lucky. The rain could have lasted longer. How does he know how long the rain's gonna last? That's weird. We were lucky indeed. Gradually, thunder went quiet, and the rain was about to stop. I looked at Alexei. He still held his hands on his head, but he didn't want to show us that it was hurt. He turned away from us and tried to hide his pain. He was injured the most. Only a couple drops had fallen on my hands and shoulders. Alexander seemed to not have suffered. Of course, he was the first to reach the house and hide under its roof. He looked at me and noticed I was watching him attentively. Then I looked at his watch. Then he looked at his watch. We'll have to change the cartridges in 15 minutes. The air will be over. With these words, he passed by me and looked outwards. We'll go cautiously in 5 minutes. Now everything's wet. Don't touch anything. He looked at our footwear. We had sneakers. Our leader had high boots. He looked at us discontentedly and continued his speech. Let's hope that your souls will pass the test. Well, suddenly the man jumped and went into the next room. Follow Alexander. The room we entered was a typical country bedroom. Let's just save it just in case. There was an old bed with numerous pieces of cloth of different colors, which had been used as a sheet, a duvet, and a pillowcase. Why not take some covers? Behind the bed there was a table with faded flowers in it. Alexander noticed a cane on the table. He took it and examined it. What for have you taken it? This is for saving our lives. The grass is tall and wet. The soles of our boots may protect us from this toxic liquid, but our pants will not protect our legs. The idea was good. I only hesitated if anything was left from the grass after the rain. If the rain ate cloth and skin, there would be little left from plants. This thought came to Alexander and added quietly, if anything is left on the ground. The rain was over. The last drops fell on the ground, but the water remained on the roof and the trees. Talking about the trees, an old apple tree stood near the house. It had got aside with time, but what happened to it after the rain was awful. There were numerous holes in the leaves as if made by hail. Some leaves fell on the ground. A few of them remained on the tree. I noticed that our leader was shocked by this terrifying view. But it wasn't the only consequence of the rain. Grass, bushes, and vegetables all suffered from it. The nature was dying, together with hundreds and thousands of people, still fighting for survival. Trees and other plants, which hadn't been much affected by the catastrophe, started giving up slowly. We waited for a few minutes before setting off. I wish I could have felt fresh air after the rain, the subtle smell of ozone. But we could only breathe stuffy air in our gas masks. In a few seconds, we went out of the house. The toxic liquid didn't destroy our souls. We went slowly away from the house, which had saved our lives. I tried not to look around. It was hard to see dying nature. Grass under our feet remained its shape and even seemed unaffected. But once we touched it with our boots, it moldered. The world around us was getting gray and gloomy. After the rain, the sky was covered with clouds and sun rays couldn't get through them. Alexander opened the gate with the cane. It was dangerous to touch it. Well, Alexei, here our ways diverge. Do you remember the route to the train? Of course. Good luck then. We continued our trip. There was one more house, or its ruins, behind the one which had protected us from the rain. It was seen that the building had been burnt recently. I even imagined how it happened. The toxic smoke caught people unexpectedly. Maybe at that moment something had been cooked on the stove, or an iron had been switched on, or there could be anything. Save it? What about factories and other enterprises which were controlled by people every minute? The amount of different accidents could be enormous, taking into account that I didn't know the scale of the catastrophe. We went out of a narrow road leading from the small houses to a thicket of tall grass. Bulrush could be seen in front of us. Where was the military man leading us? A bog is onwards. It will be dangerous. It's not big, but one wrong step can cost us life. Cost us a life. We can't bypass it. It will take about 50 minutes. And it won't be long enough for air. We'll have to risk. I'll go first. Be careful and follow my steps. I nodded. When our leader, who went in front of me, undrew the thicket of bulrush, it broke, fell into pieces, and settled down. He made an insecure step. Then one more. I followed him. Slowly and irresolutely, we were moving forward. The cane was used not only for cleaning the road from tall and wet bog grass, but for testing if a step could be made without falling into the water. Sometimes we had to jump from one hillock to another. A fence and a couple of buildings, one of which resembled a storage, could be seen in the distance. Perhaps it was our destination. Suddenly Alexander stopped and mumbled something, but I didn't hear what exactly. He started touching the ground in front of him with the cane. In every place where he poked the cane, it sank in the water. He pulled it out quickly not to lose it, because the water was eating it slowly. He squatted and stretched out his hand and cautiously moved it down once again. The cane didn't sink into the water, but it touched solid ground. He checked once again if it wasn't dangerous to step there. He looked at me and gave me the cane and jumped forward. He was about to fall, but maintained his footing. Then he looked at us anticipatingly and waved his hand. Oh God, save it. Okay. I gave him the cane back and waited for him to clean the road near the place where he was standing. I had to jump. It was slippery under my feet. But I, having waited for some time, moved forward and jumped. Like Alexander, I was about to slip but maintained my footing. The hard part was left behind. Who knows what will happen to us at the military installation? But we had to fight, not only for our lives, but for the lives of those who waited for us there, at the 60th kilometer of the Moscow Railway, south direction. End of chapter 6. My goodness, man. How many chapters are there in this freaking game? Chapter 7. Military base. Oh my goodness. Oh. What was left from the nature? Everything seemed to be dead. Colors faded, as well as trees and grass and animals. Only the two of us, me and Alexander, seemed to be odd here. Different from everything else. Alive. Alexander turned his head to me and waved his hand, pointing at large, stumpy buildings, which were seen in a short distance, where the bog was over. We continued our way in silence. There were no more barriers in our way. Soon we came to the white fence, enlaced with barbed wire, and stopped. Alexander looked at me, and then at his watch. It's time to change the cartridges. We're running out of air. My companion took a regeneration cartridge out of his bag and gave it to me, then took one more for himself. We changed them. It was much easier to breathe. Alexander examined the wall. Sorry. Alexander examined the wall which separated us from the installation. Go round. He went along the fence, keeping on cleaning his way with the cane. Bushes and other small plants crumbled on the ground, leaving only thick stems and big branches after them. The weather is still gloomy, the sky covered with rain clouds. The rain, which would bring us a long, painful death, could have started at any time. But we were lucky. It seemed that in a few hours the season changed from spring to autumn. But now everything seemed even duller than in the last autumn month, when the trees were leafless and fresh green color was replaced by gloomy and unfriendly gray. Slowly we came to the fence corner and turned around it. In about 100 meters in front of us, there was a road truck near the gates. Soon we covered the distance and stepped in the pavement. I examined the entrance. Usual gates, an open door, and a guard box were near it. An ordinary guarding point. It didn't differ from hundreds of others, which could be at every factory, warehouse, or other industrial establishment. A usual view was spoiled by puddles of blood, which leaked from the dead bodies. The bodies probably belonged to gatemen and a truck driver. At least it was hard to differentiate between them. As the bodies were turned into a disgusting mess, I tried to take my gaze away, but sometimes returned to the unpleasant view. We stepped over the gateman's body, cautiously, and went inside the building. We had to foul the soles of our boots, eaten by the toxic liquid with blood, as we couldn't go around the puddle. I examined the arrangement of the yard. There was a building which looked like a warehouse. A 3-floored building with a Russian flag above its entrance was to the left. Something like a shabby wooden barn in the distance. A small parking space and a couple of trucks and cars were in the middle. Spruces grew in rows on both sides of the building. They still remained their majestic beauty. But I knew once they were touched, hundreds of needles would fall to the ground and leave only bare gray branches. Alexander didn't look around. It was seen that he had already been here. Instead of it, he paid his attention to the cars. Wait a minute. He took a handkerchief out of his pocket not to touch the wet liver of the car and tried to open one of them. It was closed, of course. Who would leave a car door open? He came to the other car and tried to open it in vain. Good Lord! It could have warned me. At this moment, unexpectedly for me, he made a stab with his cane and broke the window. Pieces of glass fell inside the car, clinking. Alexander stretched his hand out in the car and opened the door. He cleaned the seat from broken glass and sat down. His gaze and hands were under the steering wheel. He made some manipulations, swearing. Then I decided to look closer at what he was doing. Alexander tried to open a panel which covered a steering tube. He did it to start the car without a key, which we didn't have. He came out of the car, took a swing, and hit on that place a couple times. The panel flew aside. We saw an ignition key. It was interesting to watch my companion because I couldn't start a car without a key. He removed lockings which connected the ignition key with the steering tube. Well, the steering wheel is unblocked. Alexander held wires in his hands. He pushed up an engine clutch and joined the wire ends. The car started. He closed the door and pulled away. I thought he would drive away without me, but having driven a couple of meters, my companion stopped near a stumpy building, stopped the engine, and went out of the car. I came up to him. Now we've got transport. The tank is full of petrol. We're lucky. I think we'll not go back on foot. Okay, this is not the first time when you carjack. What? Well, no, Oleg. Once I lost the key for my car and I couldn't find it. I was at my summer cottage and I needed to go to the city. My neighbor helped me and taught me this method. I see. Besides, I believe that a real man should understand these things. If you're driving a car, you need to understand how it works. If anything happens, you can always fix it by yourself, and other people will not be able to fool you. And this applies to every aspect of life. I felt uncomfortable with them. I felt at ease with Alexei and Nikolai, but I didn't know how to start to talk with Alexander. I don't know why he keeps calling him by his full name. It's aggravating me. Despite this feeling, I was safe with him. He was very confident. What the freak did he just say? My skin started itching. The same had happened during our previous trip. I knew that the longer we stayed in the toxic air, the more my skin would itch. What would happen to it next? Everything started with itch and continued with irritation, but I didn't know the next stage. Follow me, keep pace. Alexander distracted me from my thoughts. He came in the building near which he had left a car. The interior resembled the times of USSR. There was old paint and decoration of the building. It didn't comply with the present standards. Alexander switched on a flashing light to lighten the dark corridors. My companion went very fast. I tried to keep pace with him and sometimes even ran. A long corridor, a wooden door, a small room. Here we turned right. What the frick is that? Past some more rooms. There were dead bodies of people who had worked there. On our way. Finally, we found a room we aimed for. It was absolutely dark without windows. Shelves of different protection devices were near the wall. But first, all we were interested in is gas masks. Well, isolating. These are all filtering. Can we take filtering? I shrugged. Who knows? Filtering gas masks won't protect us from this stuff. Let's take these. Alexander reached for isolating gas masks. In fact, they looked different from those which we wore. Meanwhile, I took a large bag, which had been prepared beforehand, and opened it and laid it near. Alexander threw a couple of gas masks into it. Now we have more than 2 of them. More people will be able to go outside at once. Where are the cartridges? He examined the shelves, took something, and laid it back. I felt odd here. I didn't see the difference between these things, and I didn't know which of them were better. Here it is. Alexander exclaimed. I startled. What? I startled? He took out familiar to me regeneration cartridges and started filling up the bag. Ha! Nothing will be left here after us. We'll take them all. Though there were not so many of them. The bag was filled up quickly. Alexander laid out the flashlight on the shelf. He shook off his hands. It was very dusty there. Let's get out of here. Yep, let's go. Though, can you take the bag in the car? I want to visit one more place. Okay, I'll take it. I decided not to ask what Alexander was going to visit. I took a heavy bag, switched on my cell phone to light my way, and dragged it to the exit. For the first time in recent days, I was going alone. It was scary. Without my companion, I probably wouldn't be able to get back. Sorry, I should turn left here. Where'd he go, I wonder? I was even afraid of this man. I was afraid to say something wrong. I tried to listen more and talk less. A dead body was under my feet. I went around. I was really scared. When I was with Alexander, this view wasn't so terrifying. I wasn't afraid of corpses, and I didn't believe they could revive and turn into zombies like in a Hollywood blockbuster. I was afraid of being in their shoes. Soon I came to the exit. I put the bag on the road and took my phone away. Then I looked at the car. It seemed to be dry. I opened the door and put the bag on the back seat. Don't move. What the heck? No! An athletic man wearing a gas mask stood in front of me. He held a gun, which was pointed at me, in his hands. Who the heck are you? I thought I killed you all. What? Who did you kill? Who are you? Shut up. I ask questions here. The man before me aimed at us. Looks like he's serious and will open fire. Screw you. Instead of the continuation, a shot was heard. Last thing I felt was an unbearable tearing pain. Then everything was over. The end. I died! No! Love the game. I came here for the train. From what train? This is crap. The man clutched his head, then changed his mind and pointed the gun back at me. He was clearly ill. Even the way he stood was unnatural. Was it the effect of the smoke? What do you want from me? Nothing. I just came here to take gas masks. We have food and water in our train not far from here. There are other survivors. I didn't want to tell him that I wasn't alone here. I hoped that Alexander would come back and take the situation in his hands. That's crap. You won't deceive me. I noticed Alexander in the doorway of the building, where we had taken the gas mask. He had a gun in his hands, and it was pointing at the man who stood in front of me. Put the gun down! Instead of the answer, the man ran towards the opposite building. He ran very fast. Run after him, hide behind the car, and wait for Alexander. Let's run after him and see what happens. I ran around the car and ran after the man with the gun. Oleg, no! The man appeared in the doorway and shot. I'm dead again. No! Alright, let it. Put the gun down now. Here we go. Hide behind the car. For a while I was safe there. It's most likely that a bullet couldn't break the car body. Alexander checked the gun and moved to me, taking cover by a car. Who was that? Save it. Save it. Who is that? I have no idea, but he seems to be crazy. He ignored everything I tried to explain to him and said it was crap. Besides, he's got red hands, which is probably the effect of the smoke. Oleg, take it. He pulled the gun from his pocket. Who knows? Maybe you'll need it. Take it just in case. What about bullets? It's loaded. I've got bullets. I nodded approvingly and hid the gun. I had been taught to use it. I want to ask you something. I need to go to the main office. It's a private matter. So if you don't want to spend time on it, we can go away and leave this madman here. Let's deal with him, then I'll help you. Let's deal with him, but we don't have time for your personal matters. Let's get out of here. Let's go ahead and help him. We got plenty of cartridges. Alexander looked out from his cover. Hey, you, let's talk. We're not dangerous. He didn't answer. Okay, Oleg, follow me closely. We must get to that two-story building. Stay alert. If you saw him with a weapon, just shoot and kill him. Got it. Let's go. Alexander ran very fast, ready to shoot at any moment. I followed him. We got to the entrance of the building. The survived military officer was hiding there. If you're here, come out. We just want to talk to you. We've got food and water. There are a lot of survived people. He was silent. He went inside cautiously, trying not to make a sound. I followed him. Stay behind. He went in front of me and I followed him. Let me save it. Some noise was heard in front of us. We stood still. Suddenly, the man who had tried to kill me jumped out of the doorway. Shoot! Immediately. I shot immediately. Our enemy didn't expect that from me. If I hadn't shot, Alexander and I could be dead. Good job, Oleg. You reacted quickly. Alexander came up to a dead body and bent over it. It's a pity. We couldn't take him alive. It's not clear what happened to him. The gun fell out of his hand and the other hand was clenched in a fist. Something seemed to be in there. Unclench the fist. Unclenched the fist cautiously. There was a crumpled piece of paper. I took it. It was a photo. A happy couple with a little girl in the middle was depicted there. What's going on? Why did he attack us? What did he try to tell me? Okay, Oleg, let's go. We need to go up to the second floor. Alexander went very fast. I could hardly keep pace with him. We passed the stairs. We went through a narrow corridor and came to a well-furnished room. It's here. Oleg, this is my private request. Somewhere is the data about the new project, about elaboration of a new gas mask model. We compete with the company which provides them with general data about the gas mass. Was it so important for Alexander now? I think yes, otherwise he wouldn't ask me about it. Look, here is a safe. I'm sure all important documents, including agreements, are here. We need to open it. Alexander started foraging among papers which were on the table. He opened the drawers and foraged there. Among other things on the table, I saw a cell phone. Alexander didn't pay attention to it. What if I took it and opened tab pages. A lot of information was there. Surnames, addresses, notifications. But one record interested me most of all. Latitude, longitude of Moscow. There should be 4 characters. I could try. It might work and open the safe. What the freak? No, that's not English. Latitude and longitude of Moscow? Okay, here we go. We have to actually type it in. Let's see, latitude. And longitude. Of Moscow. Okay. It is 55 north and 37. It's 55.75697 north and 37.61502 east. So, to my great surprise, the safe opened. Alexander quickly ran up to it. How did you do this? Great job. He started to rummage through the piles of papers. After some time, he found a quite big folder. This is what I need. Thank you again. You can't imagine how important this is for me. I'll check it in the train when we return. After that, we quickly headed back. Are you alright? He asked suspiciously, scratching his hands. Dude, we need to get out of here. We don't have time for this. I guess so. My body itched and I couldn't do anything about it. Let's go then. Let me have a look at the map first. I'll find the route for us to go. I took out my cell phone again, switched it on the program with maps, and gave it to Alexander. He looked at it thoroughly. I'm so sorry, I keep yawning. I'm so tired. I took out my cell phone again, switched to the program of the maps, and gave it to Alexander. He looked at it thoughtfully and mumbled something, but I didn't hear him because of the gas mask. We're setting off. Get in. We'll have a ride. Ouch. Alexander sat in the driver's seat and started the engine. I cleaned my seat from pieces of glass and sat down. It was difficult to leave the installation. At first, Alexander had to look for the keys, which opened the gates in the guard box. When the way out was open, we faced one more problem. A truck. We had to drive it around on the ground. What? We had to drive it around. We had to drive it round on the ground near the road and hit a couple of bushes. We were about to skid. Fortunately, soon we reached a paved road and drove towards the railway line. It's good that the wheels are intact. No wonder if water can eat rubber. What? The road became dry. Puddles remained only in some places, and Alexander drove around them accurately. Can you drive? Of course. Silence followed. I wanted to break it and talk about something. Maybe I was nervous. You know what I think? We could form a group of 3 or 4 people and send them in the direction of Moscow to look for help. Who knows? Maybe this fog is only covering some small zone and we can find salvation outside it. That's a good idea. We should speak with Nikolai. They changed the spelling of his name. Do you see that? I think he'll approve of this proposition. We remained silent during our trip. We met a lot of cars in our way. Some of them had stopped with dead people inside. Others had got stuck in the accidents, or got in the accidents. We didn't meet any survived people. Soon we approached a country road. Alexander went around pits, puddles, and bumps craftily. The car was suitable, with high clearance and easily passed all barriers. In some distance, the road turned quite harshly. The railway line was in the other direction, separated from us by a high ravine. Alexander stopped the engine. We'll leave the car here. It won't go farther. If I'm not mistaken, our train is not far from here. I'll take the bag. My skin itched hardly. I looked at my hands. They were red and skin started peeling. We needed to go to the saving train faster, otherwise nothing would be left of us. I even felt dizzy. We should get there. Alexander was concerned about the same thing. He looked at his bare hands, or I looked at his bare hands. They were the same color as mine. I saw that it was hard for him. Handles of the heavy bag cut into his skin painfully. The railway line with our train was behind the ravine. We were approaching it from the other side and soon crossed the ravine. I'll take it. Okay. Now the bag was in my hands. I tried not to pay attention to the pain which burnt my body. I went in front of my companion, my eyes fixed on the place of our home, the place of our salvation from the pink smoke. But when we came closer, I saw this. What the freak? The train carriages were covered in some moving biomass with liquid flowing down from it. Sharply white light came through the windows that were not covered with this awful organism, or heck knows what. What would I do? What happened here while we were out? Did the rain do something? Were those people whom I knew alive? Were we left alone, not knowing what was going on? I heard some strange chawing sound behind my back. I turned back. Oh my God! A monster's snout was right in front of mine. A prolate head with long ears, resembling a horse's snoot. Long thin hair coming down from its shoulders. On its shoulders. Piggy nose and deep-set eyes. Its ugly mouth produced an indescribable sound. I felt a terrible rotten smell. How do you feel it? Which seeped through the gas mask. Take the gun and shoot! Shoot it! I screamed with fear and took out my gun in my trembling hands and pointed it at the monster. But it was faster. It struck me on the head with its paw. After that, my body weakened and I fell to the ground. What in the freak? What is that? I couldn't resist. In the next moment, I was dragged by the monster in the direction of train which was covered by monstrous biomass. End of the 7th chapter. The consequences. On May 22nd, exactly at 9 o'clock, a pink mist appeared everywhere on the planet. Everyone who inhaled it died almost immediately. The number of people on the planet decreased strongly, and even in huge cities, there were only hundreds of survivors. The mist was everywhere, even in closed spaces. Only those in moving transport have survived. That was the only place people could feel themselves secure. No one knew what happened on this ill-fated day. Many gave up and committed suicide by inhaling the poisonous air. Others died by mistake. Under the influence of the mist, water everywhere became similar to acid, eating up everything fragile in its path. Only corpses left of animals that were wandering in the wilds. Fish were decomposing from the impact of the acidic water. Rainfalls just aggravated the situation. Because of them, all the plants and trees suffered, and they looked like the most sustainable things after the cataclysm. People were trying to understand what happened. the fall of a meteorite, chemical weapons, or even some impact from a large hadron collider. However, no one succeeded in the search of the truth about that day. What? Sergey, a middle-aged thin man with a constantly wild hair and glasses, was late for work today. That day was supposed to become one of the most important ones of his career. But by a hand of fate, he was late. He spent all night thinking about the upcoming day. He fell asleep only around morning, and when he woke up, he realized he wouldn't make it to work in time. Sergey got on the bus. There were not many people on it, because it was Sunday and rush hour was already over. He purchased the ticket and chose a seat in the back of the bus, close to an old man, looking like a hobo. Well, maybe he actually was one. A man in glasses suspiciously examined him and nervously cast a look on his watch. It's too bad that the bus can't move faster, he thought. I'll get to the nearest underground station and then the Savyalovsky railway station. Alright, let's get a little save going here. And then the electric train quickly getting to work. He was trying to plan his way and count the time he was going to spend. Even if he'll get to the next train in time, he'll be late for at least an hour. However, he didn't drive his own car anyway. The hobo-looking old man reached in his giant bag and got a loaf of rye bread from there. What? He carefully untied the plastic bag and put it on the seat next to him. Sergey noticed it and moved a few inches away from him. The old man mumbled something unintelligible and got a tomato from his bag. It was fresh. They still cost a lot in May. A weird hobo. He looked at the red vegetable and started to wipe it with his scarf. Even though his scarf looked even dirtier than the tomato itself. After that, he took the loaf of bread and dug his teeth into it. He took a bite of the tomato. The juice started to drip from his hands. Then he took another bite from his loaf, not even trying to break off a piece of it, which would make it easier for sure. Sergey watched the strange man with surprise. You don't meet people like this every day. Weird and special people. Different from the others because of their habits. After eating up the tomato, the surprising old man took another from his bag. He looked around and caught the gaze of a man with untidy hair and said something unclear. Then he understood that he wasn't heard by anyone and repeated in a loud, hoarse voice. Wonderful tomatoes! They're cheap in a warehouse. A vegetable warehouse. After hearing such a loud, sharp voice, some of the passengers in the front rows looked back. But the old man ignored them and continued to enjoy his breakfast. Soon the bus stopped. There was a huge traffic jam ahead. Sergey fidgeted on his seat and checked the time again. It was around 10 in the morning. The strange old man, it seemed, wasn't hurrying anywhere. He slowly finished his tomato and put the half-eaten loaf back in his bag. He looked around and noticed the traffic jam. Moscow, everyone is always in a hurry. A phone rang. A phone ringed? Answer it. Sergey took his phone and answered. Hello? You ain't gonna make it, are ya? Not a chance. And there's a traffic jam. Fine, we'll start without you then. It's okay. We'll start to sort out all the results when you get here. There's a lot of data to analyze. There's a lot to do. Yeah, I know. I hope it'll work out. Good luck there. Yeah, we'll need it. Okay, bye. See ya. Sergey hung off. Hanged off a call. Sergey hung up, looked at the screen of his cell phone for a few moments, and then put it back into his pocket. Work? The man with the untidy hair looked at him, thinking if he should reply or stay quiet. Eventually, he didn't want to talk with the hobo that much, but still he decided to say a few words to him. Yes, work. Work, huh? What does he want? Is he just bored, alone? The bus finally left the jam and started to move significantly faster. A great day, right? The hobo suddenly pushed Sergey with a hand, making him flinch. Whoa! The bus suddenly stopped. A sound of breaking glass came from the outside. A few people jumped up from their seats and stared at what was happening behind the windows. The bus was surrounded by a weird pink mist. Sergey stood up to see what was happening. He saw a few cars bumped into each other. A smoke was coming from the windows. One of the cars was burning. Bloodstains were on the asphalt. Dear God. Everything was filled with sounds of crashing cars. Pieces of broken glass scattered around the street. In a few seconds, everything turned into chaos. A man came out of one of the cars and ran to a burning car. Suddenly, he grabbed his throat. The infected air had already infiltrated his lungs and was burning them from the inside. His lifeless body fell among the broken glass on the asphalt. What's happening? People who walked down the sidewalk were falling down on the ground too. Some of them shouted something. Others tried to hold their breath after understanding the poisonous nature of the fog, but death reached them all. The passengers of the bus could only watch them. No one tried to help those who were outside. At least it was safe in the bus for now. Daddy, what is it? Is this the end of the world? What the freak? No, calm down. Everything's gonna be alright. Calm down. But the girl wouldn't listen to him and just cried louder. Everybody started to panic. Suddenly a bird thumped the window and smashed and fell down. Stupid bird! Shocked by the scene, everyone sitting near the windows moved to the center of the bus. At the same moment, they heard a sound of an explosion. Sergey tried to determine its location and saw a flame coming out from the high-rise building near the bus. It really looked like the end of the world. It really looked like the end of the world. Why did they say it twice? People worried more and more. Everyone was shocked, and no one could guess what was happening. The old man sitting near Sergey was still on his seat, but looked like he was scared. No signal. A rumble sounded outside. It was an unguided helicopter circling rapidly above the street. In a few moments it crashed against one of the high-rise buildings, but luckily it flew a few blocks away from the place where the survivors were. Wow. Another explosion made the windows on the bus tremble. They were about to shatter, dooming passengers to an inevitable death. At the same time, a fire in a nearby car was getting stronger. A thick black smoke filled the space around it. Sergey quickly thought that it's going to explode and kill everybody. Move, somewhere, quickly, it's gonna explode! The driver seemed to understand what was happening. He immediately pressed the gas pedal and steered the wheel to the right. He tried not to drive over the dead bodies on the sidewalk. He even closed his eyes for a few seconds in order not to see the horrors outside. Faster! Sergey ran to the driver as if he were ready to drive the bus away himself. Another explosion. That burning car finally exploded. A fire spread to a nearby car. The driver steered the wheel again, trying to come around another car with a dead body inside, but he failed and the bus headed directly in the glass window of the grocery store. Wow. The sound of squealing brakes and broken glass mixed with screams of the passengers. The bus rammed the store. A windshield miraculously survived the crash, even though it was now covered with many cracks. The driver turned off the engine and put his trembling hands on his knees. The conductress, who sat near him, was holding the seat handle. The rest of the passengers were frightened too. It was like a nightmare or a Hollywood disaster film, but definitely not a regular weekend for sure. Daddy, I'm scared. What's gonna happen to us? Hush, hush. Everything's gonna be okay. Sergei sat on the closest seat. He was trembling. His heart pounded like crazy. Fear and adrenaline paralyzed his legs. He thought of running away, but he knew he can't do this. It was a trap for the surviving passengers. Can somebody explain what's going on here? Nobody knows, can't you see? Let's try to stay calm. Just look at what's happening. This is the end of the world, and you say to stay calm? Shouting won't help us for sure. We're stuck here anyway. We can't leave. We can only wait for help. Following by a sudden silence, just rarely broken by distant explosions outside. Everyone in the bus stood silently. The man with the glasses looked at the shocked passengers. People were deep in their thoughts, trying to calm down. Americans attacked! What Americans? The old man mumbled something and became silent. But what if he's right somehow? It looks like a chemical weapon. People went quiet. A few of them whispered about something. It seemed like the young girl was scared more than the others were. The girl turned her face to the window, and Sergei noticed she was crying. Calmed the girl down. The man with the untidy hair came to her and slowly sat on the next seat. Calm down. The girl turned back and looked at his worrying face. Then she hid her sight in shame. She didn't want to look scared or desperate, weak and helpless, but the tears said it all. What's your name? Irina. Irina? Repeated the man in the glasses, remembering the psychology advice about earning the trust of a person by calling a name. Calm down. We're all scared, but we can't despair. We'll go through this together. I'm sure the help is on the way. The girl glanced at him and tried to smile. Don't even know what's happening, and you say like you're sure about something. Sergei took a thought. He scratched his chin and continued, trying to look confident. We'll come up with something. After making sure the girl was calmed a bit down, the man in the glasses walked away from her to the back of the bus. Sergei started to think that this fact has something to do with what was going on. Sadly, it was just a guess, and he couldn't check if that was true. There must be many survivors. Are we alone here? There should be a lot of people in buildings. Sergei tried to inspect the street, looking through the dusty glass. No one. Only piles of corpses, broken cars, and clouds of smoke everywhere. So, all we could do is just wait? It seems so. There wasn't any other proposals. Waiting was hard. Body demanded? What? Everyone demanded immediate actions. There was an urge to escape as far as possible from this danger, just like our ancestors were fleeing from predators if there were nothing to defend with. Nothing changes. Our instincts and behavior model preserved until today. But in this situation, they were useless. Survivors in the bus waited more than an hour until silhouettes of two men emerged from the fog outside. They walked amidst the smoldering cars, examining those who were still safe and carefully inspecting every corner of the street. These were the two men with gas masks and pistols. They were talking to each other. Suddenly, one of them spotted the movement in the bus. He pointed it out to his companion. This is us again. Everyone who was in the bus leaned in the windows. A hope appeared in their faces. Who knows? Maybe it's their rescue. Two men already came to the bus, and the two men came to the bus and looked at it with interest. Passengers were shouting something, but the sound was faint. The men couldn't hear it. One of them carefully walked on a broken glass into the shop, examined the shelves, took a few glass bottles with water, and came back to his partner. They stood there for another half a minute, discussing something. Then they turned back and quickly walked away. A hope on the passengers' faces became dismay. End of chapter 8. Oh my god. You gotta be kidding me, there's another chapter? Chapter 9, Paranoia. It's been like a freaking hour already. Oh my god. How long has it been? Let me see. Yeah, it's been like an hour and 40 minutes already. I'm never gonna finish this. I've done like a good 3 hours together of stream today. What I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and just save our spot here. And then we'll come back tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Monday. Monday is the next stream day. So we'll finish up this game on Monday. And then we'll probably jump into another game as well if we have some time after I finish up this game. But anyways, thanks so much for hanging out on Twitch, YouTube, and Mixer. And we will see you guys on Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Bye.